Welcome back to Reprogramming the Subconscious Mind. In this video, we'll talk about the importance of belief and emotion. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a technique that leaders like Napoleon Hill use to reprogram the subconscious mind. So let's dive in. Here's a quote from Earl Nightingale. Whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. And this is so true in everything that we do. So here's a little information about what a belief is. So a belief is a deeply ingrained thought that influences perception and behavior. Webster defines belief as a feeling that someone or something exists or is true or trustworthy. Bob Proctor, a great thinker of our time, says our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. So if the belief is based on our evaluation of something, then we, in essence, get to choose what our beliefs are based on that evaluation. So let's go deeper into this. Here's a quote from William James: "Believe, and your belief will create the fact." So essentially, our beliefs shape our reality. And this is not more evident than when we have a limiting belief about ourselves, right? These limiting beliefs that say, I'm not good enough. Well, we keep getting proof of not being good enough because, as one of the great teachers, Abraham Hicks, talks about, is that the vibration that we're holding is going to align with the vibration externally in the universe. And so if the vibration internally is I'm not good enough, the universe is going to continually show you circumstances where you're not good enough. So here's how this works. This is a little bit about cognitive behavioral therapy. So changing thought patterns alters the beliefs and behavior. So what is cognitive behavioral therapy, sometimes called CBT? It says it emphasizes the relationship between thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Research has shown that by identifying and altering negative or maladaptive thought patterns, i.e., limited beliefs, individuals can significantly improve their beliefs and behaviors. So what we're looking at over here is sort of a diagram of how cognitive behavioral therapy works. So behaviors affect feelings and vice versa. So your behaviors are reactions to your feelings. And here's really where all of this begins, is the thought, right? So the thoughts that are thought over and over are assigned truth to them, which then become beliefs. So the more you repeat a certain thought pattern, i.e., the more you create firing of neurons and create neural pathways. And then the more you think those things, the more those neural pathways are strengthened. Therefore, you have the thought more and more and more and more. And the more you have this thought, it then becomes a belief. It becomes your core belief about yourself, about your past, about others, and so on. And then, of course, we have behaviors can create habits, right? So the more you allow a thought in your mind, and yoga says that you have control over the thoughts that you think. Yoga is calming the movements of mind. So learning to come essentially into presence, because if you're in presence, the mind is not moving. The mind is full of what is in that moment, right? So when we learn to do that, we break the habit of having this same thought over and over and over and over again, which becomes our behavior, which becomes our habit, right? Now, this part's really important. The feelings, it says, thoughts create emotions. Therefore, all emotions and feelings are valid. Okay, so the thought and the belief contribute to the feeling sensation. So this feeling sensation that arises is an indicator in the physical body of what's going on in the mind. So always your body is going to tell you what's going on in the subtler layers, which is the mind. So all of this is really similar to the roadmap that yoga gives us, where we start with the physical body, notice what's going on there. The physical body leads us to the energy body, which leads us to the mental body. So when we track the feelings, when we recognize the feelings that we're having, they can point to habits and behaviors, which points to core beliefs, which points to the thoughts that we are having over and over again about ourselves, primarily because what we believe, what we think about ourselves is going to influence how we think about others, how we think about the world at large. So this is the premise of cognitive behavioral therapy, very similar to what we teach in yoga. So your beliefs shape your reality. Here's some research that shows this, right? So we have Beck's cognitive model and foundational research. So this Aaron T. Beck, pioneer of CBT, developed the cognitive model, which posits that distorted thinking leads to emotional and behavioral issues. Correcting these distortions change the way individuals feel and behave. Change your thoughts, change your life. Okay, here's another study. So in the early clinical trials, CBT was shown to be effective in treating depression because it helps the patients identify and challenge automatic negative thoughts, replacing them with a more balanced and realistic perspective. Okay, the finding is a reduction of depressive symptoms. Who doesn't want that, right? Increased self-efficacy and more adaptive belief systems. So again, changing your pattern of thought changes your behavior, changes your habits, changes your life. Here's a couple more research studies. So study on anxiety, okay? So the change in thought pattern reduces anxiety and improves overall function. Great. So altering irrational beliefs about danger or failure, anxiety, led to significant improvements in emotional regulation and coping strategies. So the interesting thing about anxiety is a thought pattern that yogis in the Yoga Sutras would call imagination. So there are different ways that the mind moves. In Sanskrit, it's called vritti. And one of them, there are 5 categories. One of them is imagination. That is the very definition of anxiety, imagining a future case scenario. So again, this is a thought or a belief that something's going to happen. So just like we can have faith or a belief that God will provide, for example, we can also have faith or belief that something bad is going to happen. And so by changing those beliefs and those thought patterns, we can reduce anxiety. Okay. Changes in neural activity. So we talked about scientifically how the brain can restructure, reprogram the subconscious mind through either breaking negative thought pattern, negative neuronal pathways, or by creating new neuronal pathways. Usually it's a combination of both, right? So here, this reframing negative beliefs reduced fear response and improved emotional regulation. So this reduced activity in the amygdala, which is associated with the fear response. So this is proof of this cognitive behavioral therapy, and then increasing the activity in the prefrontal cortex, which this is your logical mind, the prefrontal cortex. And so reframing that reduces the fear response. And they're showing these changes in the brain. So CBT physically rewires the brain to support healthier thought patterns. All right, so what are we doing about this then? Oh, a couple more studies here. So beliefs shape your reality. So okay, so this one's about sleep, insomnia. Okay, so using this restructuring of the thoughts and the beliefs and the feelings, the emotions, right? Restructuring those and recognizing them with awareness, used to challenge these beliefs and encourage positive sleep-related behavior. So participants who adopted new constructive beliefs about their ability to sleep experienced significant reductions in insomnia. So what does that mean? They believed that they could sleep, right? So we start to get in these thought patterns. Oh, I'm not a good sleeper. I only sleep 4 hours. And I hear people repeat this over and over and over. And the more you think it, the more you speak it, right? The more it becomes your reality. So by thinking and believing that you can sleep actually improves insomnia, right? So your belief about yourself is creating this. Okay. And then finally, let's see. So this So addressing dysfunctional beliefs significantly improves behavior and emotional health. So what do we need to do? We need to understand the science of belief, right? What is the belief? So here's a great example, the placebo effect, right? Knowing and believing that this pill is going to help you actually does help, right? So mindset can affect these physiological outcomes, such as stress levels and performance. So we know this if we look at stress physiology, that stress actually does have an impact on your physical body, right? So an example here is a study showing how belief in the benefits of exercise actually improve physical health, even if they didn't actually exercise. That is incredible, right? I share this with my students all the time that Olympic athletes will visualize their event in their mind. And what's happening is the same parts of the brain that would fire as if they're actually doing the event are firing when they're simply imagining it, visualizing it. Okay. And then another thing is the brain's confirmation bias. So neural pathways strengthen when repeatedly exposed to a belief, making it self-reinforcing. Okay. So here is the tool that these big thinkers have used. So subconscious mind makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thoughts. It works with whatever we feed it. So what should we feed it? Here's a great technique called autosuggestion. So this is the process of deliberately feeding specific thoughts and affirmations to your subconscious mind to influence belief and behavior. So decide what you believe. Do you believe you're not good enough? Or do you believe, as yogic philosophy says, that you are the Atman, which is connected to the universal consciousness? Do you believe in unity? Do you believe that everything is connected? Well, if so, then repeat that belief to yourself over and over and over again, because that will reprogram your mind. So that's why in yoga, mantra and affirmation and meditation are used, because that is a form of autosuggestion. So mantra, there's a practice in yoga called japa. Japa is the repetition of a mantra with a reflection on the meaning of the mantra. So if the mantra is something like I bow to the divine within me, right? The divine is within me. I bow to that. And you repeat that over and over and over and over again. Then at some point, it becomes a belief that the divine is within you, right? And what kind of better faith can you have and move through life with, right? So this is an ancient form of autosuggestion, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to use, Sanskrit words. You can use anything that aligns with your true belief. So aligning affirmation with feeling. So for an affirmation to work, there must be emotion involved. So they have to resonate emotionally and align with your core beliefs, right? So we might have core limiting beliefs that are in our subconscious mind that keep limiting us over and over and over again. But they're subtle and they're harder to identify. So if your conscious waking belief is that you are whole and you are connected and you are abundance and you are healthy, all of these things, if that is your conscious belief, you can align your affirmation with that and notice how it feels to be connected, whole, healthy, all of these things. So experiencing this affirmation with emotion is crucial. So it says emotion act as the glue that binds the affirmation to the subconscious. So why is that? That's because the subconscious experiences everything in feeling, in the emotional state. That's where the subconscious lives. So like the wind that carries one ship east and another west, the law of autosuggestion will lift you up or pull you down according to the way that you set your sails of thought. So you get to decide. And after reading this quote, I had to pull this quote from the Bhagavad Gita as well, which says the same thing. A man is made by his belief. As he believes, so he is. So I invite you to sit down and ask yourself, what do I believe? We become what we think about. So practice thinking about what you truly actually believe rather than what you don't believe to be true. So why does emotion matter? Emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. It says it acts as a catalyst that gives affirmation their power to deeply influence these core beliefs that you have. So here's some scientific evidence. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you haven't seen his work, look him up. So studies show that combining positive thoughts with elevated emotions rewires the brain faster and more effectively. And I'm going to give you a hint, which we'll talk later about, which is one of the most powerful emotions that you can experience, and easy. It's the easiest positive thought, positive elevated emotion that you can access, which is gratitude. It's so easy to access, right? Because you can be grateful for even just the tiniest thing, right? Having food on your table, right? Having the ability to see, and then you lean into that. And so, the practice of meditation, of concentrating on just one thing, really helps to enhance those elevated emotions. HeartMath Research Institute, this is such an interesting path of study as well. So emotional coherence, where heart rhythms synchronize with positive emotions, enhances communication between the heart and brain, making affirmations more impactful. So synchronizing the heart rhythm with positive emotions. Notice, what I love to do is notice how this emotion, this positive emotion like gratitude, feels in my heart space. And I bring myself there, imagining a tiny version of myself chilling in my heart space, feeling gratitude. And then that feeling can spread through the whole body. Here's another one. Emotional states influence neuropeptides, which regulate cellular function, demonstrating how emotions impact physical and mental health. So if stress physiology is a thing, if stress hormones can cause physiological changes, then so can positive hormones as well. And so if you practice being in this elevated emotional state, you're going to get better at it, right? Whatever we practice, we get better at. All right. So the yogic perspective here, bhava means being or becoming. So we're using this in meditation, essentially aligning our affirmation or our mantra with the feeling of becoming it, right? So if you know what gratitude feels like, even just a glimmer of what it feels like, you can practice in meditation, concentrating on becoming it, right? So that can deepen the spiritual connection and focus the mind. Finally, emotion embeds into the subconscious, making them transformative. So the emotion that you hold of this belief, this affirmation, embeds it into the subconscious mind. So it etches it in there. So in the same way in yogic philosophy that samskaras are etched into the person's experience, where they start having more and more experiences that are similar to that. We talk about samskaras in the previous video there. So in the same way, positive, elevated emotions smooth out those samskaras. So they smooth out that need to repeat the same cycle over and over again. So emotion arouses the mind to a state of activity. This is crucial, right? Ralph Waldo Emerson. Sow a thought and you reap an action. Sow an action and you reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap a character. So the thought leads to the action, leads to a habit, leads to who you are. Let's decide who we want to be. Okay, last metaphor here. So the subconscious mind as a garden. So positive thoughts are like flowers, negative thoughts are like weeds. Every thought you repeat is a seed planted in the subconscious mind. If your mind is a garden, your thoughts are the seeds. The harvest will bring either flowers or weeds. And this is a great mantra, right? You can decide what you want to grow in the garden of your mind, because you get to choose. Here's the thing. Whatever's happening in the external world is just happening. It's just the isness. And to resist what is insanity. We have to accept what's happening on the outside. Where we have a choice is on the inside. We get to choose how we respond to what's happening on the outside. So we can choose whether we want to have a garden in the mind, right? Or full of weeds. So here's the application. identify the seeds in your mind. So what are the thoughts that you're having in your mind? What are you planting in your mind by repeating over and over and over again? I recommend journaling about the thoughts that you experience. So as you move through this program of reprogramming the subconscious mind, notice what your habitual thought patterns are. What are the thoughts that repeat over and over and over to you? Pay attention to the mind's habits. Write them down. And if you do this every day, you write down the thoughts that the mind is having consistently over and over again, you're going to start to notice patterns of thought, because most of the thoughts that we have in a day we've had before. Okay. You can use affirmation, visualization, and gratitude to plant positive seeds. Here's a little more about the subconscious mind as a garden and its relation to yoga philosophy. So in yoga philosophy, all of matter is made of these three things called the gunas. The gunas are sattva, which is light, rajas, which is movement, and tamas, which is inertia. So when we encourage sattvic thoughts, we reduce tamas and rajas. So what's happening in our society is that we have an excess of inertia and an excess of activity. So what's happening within the nervous system is that a healthy nervous system should go from activity, rest, kind of staying around this neutral place. But what we do is we do activity, we spike, and then we get stuck on doing until our body naturally seeks balance, and then there's a crash, right? So we can all relate to stress and overwhelm leading to burnout, right? So that's what's happening is excess of tamas and rajas causes an imbalance in the way that we function. So by increasing sattva, so sattva is anything that brings us closer to our higher self. It's peace, it's tranquility, it is a healthy stillness, it is presence. And so the more we practice the things that bring us into a calm state of mind, whatever that is, whether it's, sitting in meditation, or maybe it's going for a run or swimming or knitting or dancing, it doesn't matter what it is. Whatever helps bring our mind to stillness and peace, we can increase that and bring back the balance. Okay. And we talked about bhavana, aligning the inner desire with external actions. This is also really resonant in nirbija samadhi. So samadhi is the state of yoga, the state of meditative absorption, and nirbija samadhi specifically means that it means without seed. So there's no seed of thought that could sprout back up into desire, into attachment. So here's your assignment. Practice auto-suggestion. So we talked about noticing well, first we committed to 5 minutes of meditation daily, even a minute, 2 minutes. Any time you can spend with yourself is going to be absolutely transformational, because you are noticing the habit patterns of your mind. So first committing to meditation, then noticing a limiting belief that we're ready to shift. Then we created an affirmation that is helping to shift that self-limiting belief. So now the next assignment is to hone your affirmation. Be specific. What is it that you're shifting? Believe in it. Connect it with emotion. So when you're practicing it, feel the emotion of it to help address your negative thoughts. And here are some suggestions for practicing this. So identify your goal. Okay, the one limiting belief that you're ready to shift, create this positive affirmation. And then when you are going to practice it, and you can practice it 100 times a day, as many times as possible, just sit there or stand or lay, doesn't matter. Relax the body, slow down the breath, notice what's happening in the mind, and then repeat your affirmation. While you're saying your affirmation, visualize it, notice what it sounds like, and most importantly, notice how you feel, and connect that emotional feeling. What helps to heighten the emotional sensation is to notice where you feel that particular sensation in your body. So I mentioned gratitude in the heart. I feel gratitude in the heart. To me, if I think about what gratitude feels like, it feels like a warm, cozy, soft landing in my heart space. And you can get very specific. And then if you notice what that feels like and you bring all of your attention to it while repeating your affirmation, you can mentally expand that felt sensation to the other parts of your body. You could even use the breath. I like to use the breath as a pump, right? Just like you would blow up a balloon, right? And you get bigger and bigger and bigger. You can imagine that wherever the felt sensation is for your particular affirmation, notice it expanding, expanding, expanding. Repeat it often, again, 100 times a day, as often as possible. So I'll leave you with that assignment. Thank you for joining. If these are helping you, please leave a comment below and be sure to subscribe for more content like this. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a beautiful day.